I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy Drake. I'm still asleep, I guess. Judy Drake. Lori Hemmings.
Here.
Christine Monte.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here. Here. I'd like to start this evening with a presentation from the Tompkins County Environmental Management Council, Unique Natural Areas, by Karen Edelstein.
I just like the minutes to note that Karen's my wife. I don't think there's a conflict, but I just want that to be on the record.
Mine is very loud.
And Karen would be able to come to the... Yeah. Okay.
It's easier if I sit, if that's okay.
That's fine, as long as we have a mic. Good.
Do you want to move the table up so that you don't have to reach as far?
What's that?
Should we move the table this way?
No, I mean, you can hear me okay now? Okay. So, thanks for having me here. I've been a member of the Tompkins County Unique Natural Areas Committee for a little over 25 years now, so this is a project that is very near and dear to me. We just completed a very thorough revision of the year 2000 inventory, and because of that, we are making sure that property owners that are in these different unique natural areas are informed about that, and also we're doing a tour around all of the towns in the county to make sure that the town boards and invited planning board members who come are able to get updated and also ask questions. And so there will be time for questions at the end of this. I'm happy to answer them. So the purpose of the Unique Natural Area Inventory was to just identify and describe the outstanding environmental aspects of landscapes in the county. And one of the goals of that is to provide information in an easily accessible place for the benefit of future generations, and also assist the different boards across the county to make informed decisions. This is the only Unique Natural Area Inventory in the state. Tompkins County has won awards for the depth and breadth of this inventory. We're super proud of it. It's basically a document that provides a lot of basic information that can help with environmental reviews and background of any parcel that may be having potential development, or if there are concerns about that. And it's not just for the government bodies, it's also been a really handy document for property owners to learn more about the natural environment around where they live. And we're very, very committed to having landowner access to that information. It's a great educational tool. So very importantly up front, I want to make sure everybody understands that this is not a regulatory document. It's an advisory document, with the exception of there are a dozen or two Department of Environmental Conservation wetlands within the inventory, but the rest of the sites are not regulated. It's merely an advisory tool. Even though these areas are mapped, and they're mapped, I'll go into that in a little while, they're mapped very carefully, but still can be updated. It does not allow for the general public to come on any of these properties. If a property is designated a unique natural area, that does not mean it is a public nature preserve, and I can't overstate that. Because it's not a regulatory document, it does not provide any legal protection for an area, but still is information for both local governmental bodies and also private landowners to make informed decisions on that property in both planning and zoning. So a quick overview about the history of this document. It's, as I said, over 50 years old. It started, had its beginnings around the time of the Environmental Quality Bond Act in 1972, and shortly on the heels of that, there was a master's thesis at Cornell by a guy named Craig Tufts, who looked at about 96 sites across the county and designated those as unique natural areas. The inventory was expanded in the 90s, and a little after the time that I came on, we published this massive binder it's about a 6-inch thick binder of, at that time, 192 sites across the county that is in every library and every town office in the county. And we've been doing a rolling series of updates over the last 10 years, and we're currently up to 195 sites, 31 of which are in the town of Lansing. So this is what the map looks like now. You can see, let's see, I've got my mouse, I don't know if that, there are some areas that are state lands, like over here, Connecticut Hill, the state parks, many of them are in the unique natural area inventory. There are features which we're going to be looking at, like the Salmon Creek Valley and the lake shores in Lansing. And there's a map that you can pick up if you haven't already when you came in of the town of Lansing. So what allows a site to be considered a unique natural area or a UNA? It's all environmental factors. Sometimes the areas are already a designated natural area or a nature preserve. They may be a state or county designated wetland. Oftentimes there are diverse flora and fauna there, and we have records that are going back into the 1800s, and periodically we'll go and check on these different populations. The rare plants are not pinpointed, it's just a general area, but our committee members, one of whom is a world-class botanist, understands where to find these plants. Some of them are very scarce. Historical records play into this. As you can imagine, Tompkins County is fantastic in its geological features, and so that would trigger consideration for a unique natural area. Important teaching sites are also included. And I'll just say, this Canada lily at the top and these showy lady slippers, I just saw some last week, so they're still doing fine. There are several old growth patches of woods that are in the inventory, important birding sites, some of which are designated by National Audubon, ecological communities, some archaeological sites, and so forth. So we've come a really long way since the early 1970s. Back when the inventory was first put together, it was kind of like chalkboard crayons, just really, really, really rough delineations on second and third generation photocopied black and white aerial photographs. And as you can imagine, the boundaries were not super high resolution. Geographic information systems, which is now the gold standard for mapping, had barely been invented at that time. But now, we've got these really high resolution aerial photography images, and we can, with quite fine detail, delineate where, say, a forest changes to a field and so forth. So that's helped us a lot. So when we did the reviews of the 2000 inventory, starting in about 2013, we came up with a bunch of standards for how we were going to go about revising those boundaries, and those included coming right up to property lines, including national wetlands inventory designations, which are federal. The county itself did its own wetland mapping, and we used that. We tried to trace the edges of mature vegetation. There were many new nature preserves that came into being since 2000. And of course, as the terrain is always changing, old fields are growing up into forests. Sometimes forests are being cut down for developments. We needed to take that into account. So I'll see if with my mouse, this is the Salmon Creek Valley. Originally, the Salmon Creek Woods Unique Natural Area was up here in the top. But shortly after the 2000 inventory was completed, National Audubon designated the entire Salmon Creek corridor as an important bird area, one of only 2 in the county. It's really a significant area because of this continual forest along the stream side and the habitat that it provides for migratory birds in particular, as well as water quality. So that was one of the biggest changes that happened in the inventory, actually in the county. But we're really grateful to have scientists at National Audubon who can back up some of our decisions. I have a printout of the Lansing section of the Unique Natural Inventory. There's about 3 pages plus a map for each of the sites, and we can pass that around if people are interested. Basically includes the tax parcel numbers, site descriptions, what makes it especially unique, what the conservation status is, and then some information about plants and animals. So I'll go through a couple of quick slides to just show you how our record keeping and due diligence went when we were doing these revisions. The stippled line in yellow is what the boundary looked like before the revisions. After we did the revisions and tried to make things more accurate, we made a new boundary and also another data layer that's coded that describes why each of those sections moved in, or in some cases out, following the edge of a wetland and so forth. And there's another one. You can see in some cases here how obvious it is, like over here, the UNA line cut right through the middle of a wetland and a forest, and we just brought it out to the edge. Another one. And there were, in some cases, some very, very small unique natural areas with nonetheless really interesting plants like carnivorous sundews that we thought had been mapped in a little inaccurate way, but it was actually 1,200 feet away, the entire UNA, from where it had originally been mapped. And so that, it just makes for a much more accurate inventory now that we've gotten out in the field and relocated these places. I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with the Bell Station property, which not only was included in the New York State priority for protection, but also in the Lansing Comprehensive Plan, and it was also included in the Unique Natural Areas Inventory. It was our most recent addition, and I'm happy to say that a lot of the field work that we did as a UNA committee helped to move forward that designation of what's now a wildlife management area. And these are just the reasons why it was included: unique plant communities, exceptional geological significance, amazing birding site, beautiful flora, some interesting ecological types because of the limestone there, on-site wetlands, potential archaeological site, obviously very scenic, and the recreational value as well. So it's one of the highest ranked unique natural areas in the county, and for very good reason. So I mentioned that we do field visits to make sure that the rare plants and animals that we documented as being there are still there years down the road. And these are also done only with permission of the landowners, but we try to do a few of them a year. And of course, when we designate a new unique natural area, that requires initial field work whenever possible. And sometimes when we do our site visits, we also discover that an area has lost its significance. There's a site on Salmon Creek Road where the hydrology just changed completely, and that site is actually in the process of being delisted, but it's unusual for that to happen. So I'm happy to take any questions. I don't want to run too far into your meeting, but if you do have further questions after this, please contact Darby Kiley at the planning department, and she should be able to answer any details or procedural questions that you might come up.
Karen, does anybody have any questions for Karen?
So
Yeah.
seeing this is just informative, or is there anything you would like the board to do as a result of this presentation?
It is mostly informative, but wherever possible, it is important that this should be a reference particularly when development projects come on. And I believe that the planning department here does look at the unique natural areas, but I would also just encourage the town offices to make this available if a property owner comes in and has questions, to share that with them. Every single landowner whose property has touched a unique natural area should by now have received a postcard in the last 6 months or so. I think they were sent out during the winter. And if they've been around for a really long time, in 2000 we actually sent out like 7 or 8 page packets that had the entire pages of the inventory included. The way property ownership flips, I don't think there's any guarantee that if somebody's a new property owner that the former owner would have passed that stuff on. So it may be news for some people. But in general, I would say 99% of the property owners who are find out that their property is included are thrilled. And we have documented that. Any other questions back here? Okay.
So is there a trend towards more UNAs and less? What's going on in the second last?
I didn't hear the question.
The question was, is there a trend towards more UNAs? Since 2000, there have been 3 that have been added. Somehow Bell Station was just missed, and I don't really know how that was possible. There have been a couple of, there's another Cornell Botanic Garden site that was not known in 2000, and that one's been added, but there's a pretty high bar for adding them. I mean, the field work is quite rigorous, and we have a protocol for adding new sites, and it takes sometimes years. The other site that was added about 12 or 15 years ago was the Hawthorne Orchard, which is near the tennis courts at Cornell. And it's an amazing birding area, but because it was very controversial at the time, because they were going to build soccer fields there, we actually chose not to add it to the inventory at the time to avoid any sort of, to make sure it didn't appear to be something that was advocacy related, and then it was really deeply based in the science and the science alone, and we try to stick to that.
This is run by the environmental management.
Yeah, this is a project of the Environmental Management Council and a committee, the Unique Natural Area Committee within that.
So I have a question. I have a feeling John Zepko is probably the one who can answer, but maybe you would, Joe. Is this going to be included in the new map link, I think, that the planning board or the planning department is going to be implementing in the next year or so?
I understand your question, and I don't know what their data sets are. Does the town have a data layer of this, or they just?
Yes, they do.
So it could be, would it be appropriate to put it in something that's online that people could reference that way?
No, I'm not sure. The only thing about putting it online is that we try to straddle that line between protecting private property ownership, and there's a concern amongst many people that if that boundary is delineated, it might draw people to visiting the site without permission. So we tend to just put the sort of large-scale map up that
Well-
shows general areas, but we don't include publicly the precise site.
I'm not sure exactly how this is something in the planning department, that when you're putting together a application, it brings in different maps. And if it's set up so that if you're proposing a development near one of these, it shows you the unique natural area, that might be an appropriate way of hitting that line of, oh, you're coming close, you should know it's here, but not, I can search and figure out where they are.
Yeah, I know there was an interactive map that during the time that, around the time that we sent these notifications out to the general public, and it was many thousands of postcards, we had a site up where the public could go and look. But it was temporary, so I think the feeling in the county is that it's not supposed to be deeply zoomable.
Right,
So it should be for in-house use.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Karen. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So next we'll have Patrick Jordan from Insero go into the draft audit presentation.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here before you tonight. I think you should have both a printed copy of the drafts of the 2024 financial audit and a electronic copy, so you may have one or both in front of you. I don't have it to put up on the monitor. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if you expected us to do so, but I'll try to keep it pretty short. And what was provided was all of the similar documents that you're used to seeing. There's the big bound financial statement with a lot of footnote disclosure, supplementary information, a couple of opinions, one on the overall audit, one on compliance and internal control. There's some separate documents. One with required communication with those charged with governance, which is you all, and a management comment letter. So we like to bring all those together in the executive summary, which I'll talk from, and just kind of recap everything, and then some financial highlights over a 5-year period. So just on page 2 of the executive summary starts out identifying the various opinions that we issued. The first one being the financial statements and supplementary information. Our opinion is unmodified or clean. That's all the language that you want to have. Any modifications or departures from generally accepted accounting principles. In that same, that's part of the large, big audit, the final financial statement audit. In the back of that, the last couple of pages are another auditor's report on internal control and compliance, as I said. Again, it's unmodified. We didn't have any disclosures there for compliance issues or internal control issues. Same thing with management comment letter. No areas of no concerns or issues noted. That would be, if it didn't make it to that, the second letter, which is actually in accordance with government auditing standards. Sorry, I left that out. If there's nothing significant or material to make that letter, we could just provide other comments, other recommendations in a management comment letter, and we don't really have anything else to communicate below those higher level findings. It's all good so far, and everything upcoming is good too. Overall, the results are very good from the process, the audit process, which the next letter gets into the required communication. There's some 8 or 9 bullet items here, starting with qualitative aspects. That talks about any accounting standards, any accounting policies. They're all laid out in Note 1 to the financial statements, which goes for probably 15 or 20 pages. Pretty standard policies for a town. More specific description of Lansing, and sprinkled in there, but that also gets into well, you did adopt the new standards. All governments had to adopt GASB statement number 101 for compensated absences. Most of our governments had a big increase in the liability. You actually had a decrease, which was a little bit odd, but reviewed it several times, and it's legit. So that's just on the long-term government-wide statements. It doesn't affect your general funds or your highway funds or anything like that. That same section, qualitative aspects, talks about any estimates, any specific sensitive disclosures, and a lot of that revolves around the longer-term assets and liabilities. So again, we're going to focus mainly on the governmental, or on the governmental funds, your budgeted funds, the 2 general funds, the highway funds, water, sewer, capital. But then there's another layer that's the government-wide, where we assist with bringing in capital assets, long-term debt, your pension obligation, retirement system obligation, your bonds, which are not part of the funds. So we assist with that. And there's a reconciliation page, I think it's on page 9 or so of the main document, that you can see we bring in about $12 million in capital assets. The joint venture, interest in joint venture, Bolton Point, of about $2 million. Offset that with OPEB liabilities and retirement system liabilities and the bonds. So it takes your funds from your total funds of $6 million to the net position of about $12 million, I think it was. We'll see that upcoming. So again, that kind of concludes the qualitative aspects. So any estimates are pointed out there regarding those long-term assets and liabilities, and where you'd find the disclosures, detailed disclosures about those items. The rest of that letter is just any difficulties encountered performing the audit, corrected, uncorrected misstatements. There is a schedule of some corrections that we made, not many. Disagreements with management. We'll send out a management representation letter for Ruth to sign and send back, and that becomes the date of everything. We'll go from a draft to final, sign and date it when we get that letter back, once you approve it, or approve the draft. So that's really the remainder of that letter. And then it gets into, on page 4, some of the 5-year financial highlights, and I really don't like this. I'm trying to get this changed at the firm. It's so small you can hardly read it. I'll try to just point out some of the specific items, starting with the general fund townwide. That's on the top of page 4. It covers the assets, all of the assets on that top table. You can see a big one, due from other funds from the capital project fund. That's a big change there. There's basically some money, I think it related to the ARPA, that was kind of split up into some other funds separate from the capital this year. That's the bigger change. It brings the total assets from $600,000 to $1.1 million. Everything else pretty consistent there. And liability section, not a lot there. It's just $117,000. Nothing really big to point out. Accrued liabilities is primarily the accrued salaries. They're of $82,000, a piece of that anyway. So then it flips into the fund balances on page 5 for the general fund townwide. You can see total fund balance went from 580,000 to a little over $1 million, $1,010,629, which is great. You did do some reallocation of the property tax between the two general funds and the two highway funds, and also the non-property tax, the sales tax, which you can do, that's fine, to just rebalance those funds. So we did talk about the level of the unassigned balance, fund balance last year of 401,000. Now it's up to 786 here, but I have to say I caught something after the draft went out. The unassigned is really 637,229. You actually appropriated 149,000 of fund balance. That means you budgeted 149,000 more of expenditures than revenues in '25. So I have to make that correction. It's here, and it's also on page 7 for the, page 8 for the other general fund. Doesn't really affect anything else. It's just, reallocation of the fund balance between unassigned and assigned. You're above, the 2 months of expenditures, which is a good ballpark number. It was a little bit below last year, so that means you have, in unassigned, you have more than 2 months of your budgeted expenditures. And, I think that's about all I wanted to point out on the fund balance side. You can see revenues up about 678,000 on the bottom of page 5. A lot of that is in the real property taxes. Also, non-property tax items went up about 214. Again, a little bit of reallocation from the other funds into general fund. Sales tax is basically the non-property tax. On the expense side, pretty consistent, just up 124,000. This is on the top of page 6, so the revenue side went up considerably, the expense side 124, so your net excess revenues for the year was about 430,000 in 2024, and you can see compared to those other 4 years back, which were all negatives, or higher expenditures than revenues, so that's a good year for this fund, and that basically falls down to the bottom of the page with the change in fund balance beginning of year and end of year, as we saw on the front page. 7 gets into the general fund outside village. Again, it's pretty much similar type trends, I guess. Pretty consistent on the total assets. Didn't change much at all from $1,001,064 to $919. Liability side very small, 25,000. Then on page 5.8 is again the fund balance section. And again, I have to make a slight change there. The assigned is $317,740. It really should be $366,791. So just about 50,000 is going to move up from unassigned to assigned. That leaves about 500,000, which is well over the 2 months of expenditures. So that funds is fine. Revenues, again, you can see the non-property tax at the bottom of 8. Some of that shifted over to general. That's really the big swing there. And on the expense side, pretty consistent, but did spend down, fund by 95,000, but again, it's still a very healthy fund balance and unassigned, so it went from, you had a net gain last year of 187,000, and on top of a couple of further years back, all gains, so this one just spent down about 95,000 of that. Highway on 10, highway fund town-wide assets. That we just get through. That was general fund outside. I don't really have too much to highlight there, except that, obviously assets, cash and cash equivalents up quite a bit. So total assets 400,000 to 851. Not much change at all. 40,000 or so on the liability side, and you can see on the top of 11 is the assigned. And in the highway funds, there is no unassigned. Everything goes into assigned. So if there's appropriated fund balance or anything else, encumbrances, it all gets reported in the highway funds and the other funds besides general as assigned. So it's kind of buried. You really do have 105,000 appropriated in the highway fund, but it's buried in assigned. It'll stay there. Revenue side, there's just a couple swings, minor swings with real property taxes and non-property taxes. You can see that there was no non-property tax or sales tax in the prior year. Some did get shifted over here. 12, highway fund expenditures, not much difference there at all, pretty consistent, slight increase over the 5 years. There was some transfers in from capital projects related to the ARPA, 168,000, so it was just where it was going to be used or spent, shifted over from capital where it lived for a while into the highway fund townwide. The last fund that I'll really talk most about is highway fund outside village. Again, pretty consistent in the total asset section, 1.6 million. This is on page 13, sorry. Up to close to 1.8 million. There was a little bit of difference of how things got reported from the prior year. In other receivables, we kind of corrected that and showed that sales tax. So in all the funds, there's a December sales tax payment that's collected in January. So that's shown here as due from other governments. In all the funds, it's labeled as due from other governments versus other receivables, which it had been in the past. I'm going to shift to 14 just real quick. You can see the top section there is fund balance again, 1.6 million to 1.7, so not a lot of change at all there. Nothing really to highlight. Just trying to keep moving along. Revenue is pretty consistent, 1.9 million both years. Same with expenses and excessive revenues, so that's been pretty consistent. All higher revenues and expenses in all five years here, with the last one being 92,000. Sewer and I think water are next. I don't really have too much to highlight. A lot of consistencies in everything from year to year. Kind of just, for the most part, breaking even in the sewer fund, which is on 18. You can see over the years, this year there was excess revenues of 14,000 and 18,000, 14. So pretty consistent there, just a pretty break-even budget there. And water, pretty much the same thing. Assets were up from 1.5 to 1.7. Fund balance, same thing, 1.5 to 1.7. And on page 21, you can see the increase for the year of 267,000, third line up in the 24 column in the water fund. So that's all. The fund is very healthy as of 24. The last page, I think, next to last, is page 22. Again, talked a little bit about the fund financials and the fund balances, and then it's converted into the statement of net position. So the total net position is close to 15 million. Again, that includes a lot of capital assets, net of debt, net of other long-term liabilities. So really it brings you back to about what the funds are, about the $6 million in unrestricted. And then we further show the effect of the two long-term liabilities from GASB 68, the state pension obligations, and the state GASB 75, the OPEB, or other post-employment health insurance liability. You can see the effect that has on the unrestricted fund balance. If you added those back, those are not going to be liquidated or paid for, in the near future. You really have unrestricted net position without GASB 67 or 6875 of close to 10 million. We do this page because a lot of the governments have a big, huge negative unrestricted due to the GASB 75, the health insurance. So you're one of the few that have a positive unrestricted net position. And just real quick on page 23, we talked about the standard that you implemented, GASB 101. There's three more coming along in the next 2 years in 25 and 26. Certain risk disclosures, if you're going to, say, lose a huge tax property, we'd want to disclose it in the notes. It's just one example, or other revenue source or something other major that's going to have a negative effect. There is that already, currently, but it's just going to be more specific and more important disclosure. Then 102, 103, 104 risk. I'm sorry. The 102 is what I was just explaining about the certain risk disclosures next year. 103 and 104 are the financial reporting model. The biggest thing there is we're going to have to do a lot of detailed explanation of changes from original budget to modified budget, very specific, and also modified budget to actual. That's something new that will help you with throughout this year to get prepared for '26. And then 104, we haven't really done much at all with GASB 104 yet, with disclosure of certain capital assets. So that's coming along also. So those are the ones in the pipeline. There's a lot of more information in the management discussion and analysis, as usual, and the footnote disclosures go on, and specifically those longer-term assets and liabilities that I talked about. So we'll make those two changes. Otherwise, we're in pretty good shape. Very happy to be here July 16th instead of September, October, November, as we have. So there's, thanks to Mary Ellen and Jen and everybody and you helping us along with the process. So again, overall, funds look good. The audit process went very well. And we're here in good shape early in the year.
Thank you. We really appreciate you getting this done on time. I do have a question, being the accountant in the group. In a nutshell, very quickly, what is that disclosure of certain capital assets going to be about?
We have not done much at all with it
You
yet.
don't know much? Okay.
No, I don't think it's not going to change your financial statements, it's just disclosures.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like everything else, they're adding a lot of disclosures in the next couple of years. I will let you know, though. I'll do more on it.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say I appreciate getting this in July. It really helps getting it before budget season. I know you worked hard to get it done that early for us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for everybody's response too on the inquiries that we sent out, and I hope we answered. Okay. All right. Oh, and kind of, there's a justice audit that you should have received also, and that was all fine. Justice court audit that we did.
Okay.
So that was part of the packet too. Didn't really make it to the executive summary, but that was all fine.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Send you that letter in the next few days, then.
Okay.
Representation.
And they're just the corrected reports.
Do you want corrected drafts before we? Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to open the motion. I need a motion to open for public hearing for proposed local law number 5 of 2025, override of the tax levy limit.
So moved.
Here a second.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No one signed up for, excuse me, for the public hearing. I believe it's probably been a minute.
Leave some.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'm going to open public, motion to open the public hearing on proposed local law number 6 of 2025, repeal Town Code Chapter 116 and amend Town Code Chapter 270 to provide site planning regulations for cannabis retail sale and consumption facilities.
I'll move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I see see no one signed up for that either.
You can invite the audience. Does anyone want to speak on it?
A minute's a long time.
I know, but no one says anything. It's a really long time.
I'm saying, how long a minute is depends upon which side of the bathroom door you're waiting on.
Okay, you're good.
Is this still a public hearing?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's on the weed, right?
Yeah.
Cannabis.
Sure. So, at the county, I voted to obviously legalize marijuana sales. I think nationally it has not, the state certainly did not do a good rollout. I actually applaud the town for waiting to do this, because the state they botched it. And now we have to we're still cleaning up the mess from what the state did, because there are still illegal shops operating. We get complaints still at the county, and we at the county now are dealing with this, to close those shops. Because, listen, if you're a legal owner, you go, you buy a license, you're paying for a license. You wouldn't allow somebody to open a pop-up liquor store. The liquor stores would complain. So just something to keep in mind, that even those people in the town, even though this is becoming legal perhaps, to sell cannabis, it's still illegal if you don't have a license to sell cannabis. I think the 500-foot rule is not very far from a school. I would encourage that to be moved a larger distance. I'm hoping that it stays more at the south end of Lansing, which I expect it will. I mean, I don't think it's going to be up here. I think it's probably going to be down in the commercial district. Although we do have a detox center there. So that'll be interesting. And 500 feet from the detox center is an interesting property line when you get down in there, because I don't know where the mall's property line ends. So anyway, I don't know. I just, my big thing is to keep it out of children's hands. And by children in this aspect is not just 21. I mean, frankly, weed, marijuana, cannabis affects your brain permanently all the way up until age 25, because your brain is still developing. And we certainly have seen the implications of that across the country with an increase in, I believe, mental health difficulties because of marijuana. So hopefully people will treat it as a serious thing. I think the good thing about legalizing marijuana is at least now you know what you're getting. I will also say that weed is much more potent now than it was when I was 18 or 21 or 25. It's just not the same thing as it was back in the 70s and 80s. So thank you very much, and that's about it. I'm good.
Thank you, Mike.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, but it's only allowed in, what is it, business 1 and 2?
B1, B2, and RA, anywhere where there's regular retail allowed.
Right, okay. So most of North Lansing, it's not allowed anywhere.
Anyone else? Okay, do I hear a motion to close?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So our next step is to resolution adopting local law 5 of 2025, the override the tax levy limit.
I'll second.
Joe, okay.
Any discussion?
Judy Tree? Aye. Lori Hemmings? Aye. Christine Montag?
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore?
All right.
Ruth Brock?
Aye. The next one is a resolution adopting local law 6 of 2025, repeal the town code chapter 116 and amend town code chapter 270 to provide site planning regulations for cannabis retail sale and consumption facilities.
I'll move it.
Second. Okay, I think are you supposed to review the
Seeker.
seeker?
Forgot there was secret.
Yeah, because it affects more than 25 acres and more than 2.5 acres when in ag districts or near adjacent to an ag district. So do you want me to run through it?
Does anybody pretend, what page is that?
Start on page
I found it.
7. So the way that the EAF mapper works, you can't get the entirety of the town of Lansing in a map, so you end up with 2 maps, and I combined the data into the one report and then included both maps, so you have the full data set on the part 1. And part 1 can be misleading because when the only action is actually a legislative approval or adoption of policy or local law, the vast majority of it doesn't matter because, for example, you're not moving tons of earth when you adopt a local law. So the part 1 becomes very easy. In terms of the part 2, you're still required to take a look at potential impacts. And this is where seeker gets a little squirrely when it comes to something like adopting a law. Because if you're adopting a law that is something like it's going to allow retail uses, is there or is there not an impact if the zone already allows retail uses? Well, in conjunction and conversations with John, I agreed that the better path forward was to identify potential impacts that would come if someone were, to example, build a new building, and then look at how our site planning works for general construction, how our permitting works, how our stormwater works, and determine if any of those impacts based upon what you're required to look at in seeker would be moderate or large, and if moderate or large, unmitigated by any permitting or future reviews, including future seeker reviews. And when you look at the standards at what the state is looking at, like steep slopes and the volume of air pollution, or the volume of earth interference or water impacts, pretty much all of the impacts that were triggered, for example, impact on land, yes, but they were all small or moderate. If you look at the impacts on groundwater, yes, if you do construction in stormwater ponds, you're going to have impacts on groundwater, but they were all minor. Impact on flooding, I think it's unlikely you'd see based on the areas where it's permitted for zoning, you'd see these, but there are some wetlands in the B1 and B2, so the answer there had to be yes, but again, small and moderate. Even when the town looked at town center matters, we've already delineated those wetlands. Plants and animals, agricultural resources, the other ones, most of them have no's. Agricultural resources, yes, there could be an impact there, but none of them are large. Historic and archaeological resources, no. Open spaces, no. CEAs, no. Transportation, no. One store isn't going to generate the type of traffic numbers that would require an EIS. Energy, no. Noise, odor, and light, no. While smell is considered a form of air pollution, the Clean Air Act standards, the amount that you have to produce, generally you're not going to trigger this. Again, we don't regulate the odors from, restaurants, so we're not allowed to regulate the odors from this. Impact on human health, I think that one you could debate, but in terms of seeker, the answer is no, because New York State already did that analysis. And their system is supposed to offset those impacts. You could debate whether that's working, just like whether gambling is offsetting, betting, but in terms of a local law, that's not really what we're aiming at here. This is not inconsistent with community plans or community characters. It's only being allowed in places where we already allow retail. So I included a narrative summary of some of those conclusions in the part 3. I know you've all had it, and if you agree with it, then you would concur in a negative declaration, and I've provided in the resolutions the instructions on how to file that with the ENB and who signs it and everything like that. And if you have questions, certainly let me know.
Yeah, my quick question is, we've got pages that are both filled out and crossed out, and
Because the filled out is something that happens automatically from the EAF mapper, which pulls the data from the CRIS database, from the environmental resource mapper, from all sorts of different, SHPO, which is also the CRIS database. So it goes into spill databases and brings in that data. So the EAF mapper is like a spider. It goes out and gathers all the data based on where your map is and whatever's tagged to that area and pulls it into the form. So it's there as a result of being produced by that mapper, but because it's just a local law, if you read the instructions, it specifically says, if you're adopting a policy or local law, do not fill out these sections and proceed directly to part F and G or E and F.
got it.
So last time that this came up, I think John had done the part one, and it was a little confusing. So what I did was I just took a marker and on the PDF and drew a line through it, so you could track what you're supposed to look at when it's a local law. So seeker's really built for ground disturbance activities, construction, demolition. It doesn't work one-on-one with local laws, but there's no question that laws can have environmental impacts. So both John and I thought the safer thing was to look at that and go to the EAF mapper, go to the spill database and make sure we weren't triggering anything. And based upon that review and the summary that I provided, my recommendation is a negative declaration. If you guys agree, then you'd proceed, and if you don't, then you wouldn't adopt this yet. We'd go to an EIS process and scoping.
So are there any questions?
I'm good moving forward with the negative declaration and adopting the local law.
I've got Joe doing a first and Lori a second. Okay. Judy Drake. Aye. Lori Hemmings. Aye. Christine Monte.
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye.
Ruth Brawl.
Aye. We're now open for privilege of the floor, with allowing 3 minutes per speaker, and we do have 4 people signed up for that. We have Karen Engels.
Could you speak into the mic so that people who listen to this later can hear?
Yes.
You can sit down with the mic if you want.
My name is Carol Engels, and you may have received a note from my husband and I about our concern about O'Toole's at the end of Schofield Road. And I'll just hit the highlights really quickly, that we own a number of pieces of property in that area. One is a rental, and that rental is right directly opposite a knoll in the road on Schofield. And my husband and I were up weed whacking, and the rate at which one of these dump trucks went by with a load of rock was just startling. It was concerning. And the people who live in that house, it's a blue ranch house, and you have to pull out forward because you already, it's difficult seeing, and the speeds tend to be rather fast on Schofield because it's a straightaway. So it's kind of a cut through for a lot of people going to Cornell and trucks and a lot of things. So that's one of my concerns, and the rental. Let's see. The other thing I was concerned about is the location of the. It's difficult to cut across on Schofield Road across 34B. You have to make sure no car is coming either direction, and you have to go kind of fast over that little crest in 34B. And now I've seen myself having a problem because the trucks are pulling out from the location at O'Toole's at the same time as the cars are coming, 60 miles an hour up 34B, and you're trying to cut across. So, and there's also a terrible pothole, so everyone be careful. Right there at the stop sign, if you hit that pothole, your car just jolts, and I think truck wear and tear is going to be hard too. And I guess one of our big concerns too is that some of our property is 16 acres behind our house, And in the attempt to downsize, my husband and I are selling a lot of the property, and that backs up to less than 0.3 of a mile from the back of O'Toole's. We have a creek next to our house, and we have a well, and it's very, very wet in the back, that whole area. So that's a concern for me as far as what's there, what's being recycled as far as asphalt and things like that. I don't really know much about the business. And I guess that just leads me to my other question, which is I don't understand what happened, because it started out as just a small little place that was just storing some rock, and now it's a pretty big business. The trucks go through. Fortunate for me, I'm hard of hearing, and I have to move my hearing aids. I don't hear it, but I hear the big clank, and I finally said, what's that? And my husband said, that's the trucks down at the end of the road dropping off stone. And that starts at 7:30 a.m. This morning I think it was a little early because I was out watering the garden. So it starts before 7:30 in the morning, and then it goes till 4.
That was a signal for your 3 minutes, but thank you so much.
Good evening, I'm Margot Hittleman. I live on Schofield Road for 36 years and also want to speak about O'Toole's, share those concerns, many others, 12 hours of nonstop noise, trucks beeping, banging, clanging. But tonight my husband and I want to speak to raise concerns about due diligence and selective enforcement of the town's zoning ordinance. Mr. Penny's first site plan expired in 2019 and the second one in February 2023. Neither was implemented. O'Toole's opened on that site in April 2024 without a valid site plan. The planning department is allowing continued operation based on Mr. Penny's claims of pre-existing non-conforming use. Yet the 2016 site plan for that property clearly states that the site then contained only, quote, a construction and excavation materials storage area that at the request of Mr. Penny was denominated as a contractor's storage yard. However, the intent of the planning board in doing so was also clear. The resolution describes all the materials stored on that site as being solely for the phased spreading and filling in of the site in connection to residential development, and that once that was done, the contractor's storage yard would cease and discontinue with no grandfathering or pre-existing or allowed use rights, end quote. Since the 2016 plan was never implemented, the planning board's denomination has no precedential value, but the question remains, what was the actual pre-existing use prior to the town's 2015 land use ordinance? The answer is partly in that resolution. It's confirmed by satellite photos of the site from those years. It was a small storage area for a limited set of materials being used by Penny Properties as fill for the building apartments. In a moment, my husband will offer evidence that the current operation is not an extension of whatever pre-existing use existed, but rather a fundamentally different type of business. But before that, let me ask, what evidence was collected by the town to substantiate Mr. Penny's claim of pre-existing non-conforming use before allowing operations based on them? I have not been able to get any of that evidence. And second, why has O'Toole's been allowed to operate a substantially different kind of business at what they self-proclaim as their new Lansing location for a second year in the absence of a valid site plan review? And why have they been allowed to dramatically expand their footprint, engage in substantially different types of activities? May I finish the sentence, or?
I'm just the time person.
May I finish just the sentence?
Yes.
Openly advertise drive-in retail sales and do so at an ever-expanding scale and scope. The code does not allow any of that for pre-existing non-conforming use. Thank you.
Richard Lansdowne?
Yes, you.
Yes.
Sorry, everyone, I was severe hearing loss, so if you want to ask me questions, I might ask you to repeat them. Am I speaking well enough into the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Richard Lansdowne, and I am providing further comments in conjunction with Margot's. It's regarding the site on 34B. Whatever prior use of the site there was, the activity did not include an industrial gravel company, mined materials, processing operations, and sales to the public, all of which is done on a significantly expanded footprint than the activity that was happening in 2015. When O'Toole's began operating in Lansing in 2024, it appears to have done so as an expansion of its mining operations in Moravia, and not as a continuation of the activity on the site here in Lansing, which had previously involved excavated material and fill. O'Toole's is stocking, processing, and preparing for sale sand, gravel, and crushed stone, which New York State defines as mined materials. And this is not excavated fill. This is material from their mines in Moravia. Such activities are usually performed at a mine location, but O'Toole's has publicly advertised that they are opening this as a new second site in Lansing. The present activity is fundamentally different as an industry than what has occurred on the site previously, and it is with different materials and a different impact on the neighborhood and the environment. Now, per the town code, it is our understanding that non-conforming use cannot be changed to a different non-conforming use without a variance from the town. That is a change from dealing with excavated material to mined material. Also, per the town code, a non-conforming use cannot be expanded or extended to occupy a greater area of land without receiving a variance from the town. And we believe that both of these changes have occurred on the site since O'Toole's has operated. Now, in addition, Margot has heard suggestions that it might be unreasonable for the town to spend tax dollars to deal with a situation that impacts only one neighborhood. But we must note that this neighborhood is also the neighborhood of the violation for the variance, and it could be any neighborhood in Lansing. So this case directly impacts all of Lansing's residents. It sets a precedent for future developers throughout the town. Alternately, it offers the appearance that a business may receive preferential treatment by violating town codes, and a treatment which is not afforded to other property owners. There are also significant liabilities potentially for a town in ignoring the traffic safety, health, and environmental impacts of businesses that operate outside of the code, and in privileging the rights of one landowner in ways that devalue the rights and investments of others in the neighborhood.
Okay, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up, but we appreciate
Thank you all
your
for listening
comments.
to me.
Thank you. And next is Tracy Austin, is that right?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tracy Austin. I am a neighbor on Schofield Road as well. I just want to bring up a couple of things. One thing that I want to bring up is the environmental impact of that location at O'Toole's. It's very near groundwater. They're doing asphalt and concrete grinding, which is very detrimental to not only our health, but also to wildlife, and it's also detrimental to our groundwater. We have a lot of wetlands around there. There's a lot of creeks. That's a possible contamination. It's also extremely loud, and I know we don't have a noise ordinance here, but it is very impactful to us as neighbors. I was run off the road yesterday walking my dog because a truck came down the road so fast and he did not see me. I literally had to jump into the ditch. They're going 70, 80 miles an hour down that road when they're empty. They go down empty, they come back full, they go down empty, and it starts at 6:30 in the morning because that's when I walked my dog. It's not safe. I saw a car the other day when the truck pulled out in front of him as he was coming down 34B, almost hit him. There's safety concerns, there's environmental concerns, and there's noise issues. That on top of the issues with the zoning. That's pretty much all I have to say.
you.
And may we send our comments in written form to the clerk tomorrow morning?
I think she'd appreciate that, thank you.
All right. We appreciate your comments, thank you.
I'm sorry?
We appreciate your comments, we will take under consideration. Thank you. Okay, we're ready for department reports. Department of Public Works, Mike?
Good evening. I'm a little muddy, water main break, and so I'm a little late, sorry.
I saw that, I got the siren announcement about it.
That's the correct priority.
Yeah, as I was just chatting with Dave, it's, the heavy mill bag was not connected and overlapped and taped, so we had corrosion at the bell. And it just kind of stinks because the rest of it is in top-notch shape. So, sorry, with that said, I'll move on to my report. Yeah, the Department of Public Works building is moving along nicely. They're moving a lot of material. They've actually come across a good amount of good gravel that was there. I'd stated that there was a decent amount of good gravel underneath the salt barn. Where we also made the pipe yard, there was more gravel that's very useful. We expanded their footprint a little bit closer to the west to give them room to stock the material. We're hoping that will be a win in the plus column financially for us, as in a credit. The road improvements and maintenance is moving along. Everybody knows as the rains have come through, it's a little tough to keep on schedule as we work with contractors to come in and do the work. Today, micro paving took place. It went smoothly. We should finish tomorrow. The water and sewer maintenance is there as we plug along to our list of working on valves and making sure they're ready to go, not only for when there's breaks, so we can isolate, but within our paving and maintenance with our roads. The intermunicipal work, I do want to thank New York State DOT up on Warren Road. They were kind enough to allow us to use their yard in order to store sand that we use in the micro paving. Provided a loader, we provided the operator, so intermunicipal cooperation is fantastic. My office work and meetings are all there. If anybody has any questions about that, I'm glad to answer that. If not, I just wanted to bring up one more thing that happened today, which was pretty cool. No questions? All right, so today I got a call from Angel from Soil and Water, and she asked if, on a little short notice, if I was able to go out to Newman Road to meet, I think, a couple bus loads of people from other municipalities, from other counties. The Mr. Ball, who's the ag commissioner, he's the commissioner for ag markets, was there. The person who's just underneath him was there. And what they wanted to see was the erosion control that we put in on Newman Road. We were working with Walnut Ridge. Frank Towner is the landowner. Walnut Ridge is the farm that works at. And also, the main purpose was to stabilize the road. So, short notice, met with all of these people, spoke to the project. The communication cooperation that we have with Tompkins County Soil and Water, the town was commended on how we work with them. There is a savings there. There's money that comes in. So special thanks to Tompkins County Soil and Water, Angel and John, for what they do for my department. Love working with them, and I was happy to go out and talk to the project. So that's it.
I want to say that Mike has a really great relationship with the county and the state, and I think that's a great commendation to the work that you do and how you do it and your ethics and your work values and everything else. So Mike, thank you for everything that you do. Because you save the town a lot of money and you provide a lot of good products for the town. Thank you.
It's nice to work with really good people, you know? Time and place. So, thank you.
I just want to appreciate how you guys are taking care of the wood chip pile. You guys, put some gravel in there where there are ruts. I know you're dealing with people dropping off everything from garbage to the wrong kind of brush there.
Yes.
And you guys are on top of it really quickly, and I appreciate that. I just want you to know I'm noticing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anything else?
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Patrick is not available this evening. Von Zepko's also other obligations. Town clerk's report is in the package. Library report's in the package. Youth services. And last but not least, Mike Sigler, Tompkins County Legislative report.
Well, I also feel the need to say great things about Mike Mosley. So. No, hello, and thank you for having me again. Let me just pull something up because I was going to read it. I want to thank the County Communications Director, Monica Savage, whose reports I do draw liberally from. First off, I want to congratulate the Lansing trap team. 55th out of, goodness, how many teams? I did pull this up. Out of 264 teams at Nationals. And
Wow.
Someone's son came in 114th out of 1,770 contestants, which is just remarkable. 2 years, they've been doing that. Very proud to have a trap team. Love to see that sport actually taking off in the state of New York. We are not the only one, even in the county, that has a trap team, and it is growing by leaps and bounds. And I love the fact that it's a mixed gender team. It's just, we have young men, young women getting involved in this, and it's, I just think, such a tremendous thing. I have good news. As you may have known, we have lost a lot of department heads recently. We are filling those very quickly, and we're filling them with very talented people. We do have 3 new department heads since just the last time I met with you. Brittany Earl, she has been named the new Commissioner of Social Services. She'll be heading up DSS. Just want to thank Kit Kephart for running that department. I think that's probably the hardest department. Don't take offense, anybody. One of the hardest departments in the county, just because you're dealing with federal money and state money, and it all has to be accounted for to the penny, and you are dealing with people in some of the most difficult situations imaginable. So Brittany does bring 15 years of experience to the public service with strong foundation, both direct service and leadership across multiple sectors, juvenile justice system, youth development. She has served as the interim director of community response team at Cornell University. She was also at Children and Families, Oswego County Opportunities, and she was also at the Ithaca Youth Bureau. So she's certainly been a part of our community and knows the situations better than most people. We also appointed Janine Sutcliffe as the next whole health commissioner. She'll be taking over for Frank Krupa, who's now over at the Kew Medical Center and helping us with our mental health stabilization unit. And Darrell Tuttle has been named the next director of finance. Those are both going into effect July 7th, or went into effect July 7th. The Tompkins County Tourism Program, this is good information for us and the Lansing Events Committee. We are now accepting applications for the fall 2025 funding round. We have 2 established grant programs, the Community Celebration Grants. Those go up to about $2,500. We have about $11,000 available. So again, Lansing Events Committee wants to apply for that money and get some money if they haven't already. They certainly have time to do that. And then the Tourism Advancement Grants, say you wanted to do something that would, Myers Park, for example, if you wanted to do something there to bring more people in. The goal, though, is to put more heads in beds, basically, get more people into staying overnight. So there you have awards up to $10,000, though, and there's $33,720 available, so a bigger grant program. We'll say great things about Myers Park. I've been going down there quite a bit, down at the boat launch. We have terrific people working down there. The young people that you have hired down there just are a pleasure to work with. They know what they're doing, and it's been a great experience. We are looking for a consultant and expert guidance, technical assistance, establishing a local law that will set a countywide minimum wage that would be higher than the state minimum wage. There's different opinions on this, whether it's a good idea or not, whether it will drive business out of Tompkins County. I'm always of the mind that the minimum wage is always zero, and then it goes up from there. And frankly, our minimum wage in Lansing alone is higher than the state by about $3, it seems, right now. So, but we are going to take a look at it. We're going to spend $50,000 to do that. We're looking for people to do that work right now, and the submission deadline to do that work is July 25th. Let's see, we're also going to look at living wage when it comes to that, minimum wage versus living wage. I mean, the living wage right now in this county is, according to the Alternatives Federal Credit Union, is over $24. So obviously the current, and I mean, COVID played a part of that, but it just was almost too big, I think, for them at the time. So what has happened now is the hospital, and what they are going to do, and this is why this has taken a little bit of time. People may be saying, gosh, this is taking a lot of time. We are going to put the mental health stabilization unit, they are, together with the detox center. So they're going to be housed in the same building. Those actually are run by two different state agencies. And when you get two different state agencies involved, the payment structure is different. It just becomes much more difficult. They have hammered all that out with the state. The state is going to allow us to operate these two they're frankly not that different. It's something the state really needs to address. People with mental health a lot of times self-medicate. I don't think that's a big mystery to anybody. And yet, but we do have permission now to go ahead. I believe, I don't want to get this wrong, the detox center should open by the end of the year, and the mental health stabilization unit should open in the first. It was open, and it's beautiful inside. So excited to see that come online. The states, or the county actually spent a lot of ARPA money, about $1.5 million, to get this mental health stabilization unit up and running. Because, you know, we pick somebody up on the street and they have a mental health issue. Why are we taking them to I mean, granted, if they've committed a crime, we'll take care of that later, but the jail doesn't have the capacity to do that. So much better to take them and get them stable, and that's our plan going forward.
Yeah. Did you say the state is running it or the medical center is running it?
The medical center will be running it, but a lot of the payments come out of the state.
Okay.
And the state regulates it, pretty highly regulated. Frank at the mental health. But the fact that he went over there to kind of spearhead this is just, we couldn't have asked for kind of a better confluence of events to happen. So.
I'd like to state that I'm going to be recusing myself, is that the correct word, from this due to the fact that Cheryl Munson is my sister-in-law.
So Lori Hemmings. Aye. Christine Montague.
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye.
Ruth Rowe.
Aye. Board member reports are in your packet. Does anyone have anything to comment about theirs or additions?
I do.
Okay.
Pomeroy, the language that we're working with right now, the sign will read, Benjamin Joy, 18 to 1869, led New York State movements for abolition and temperance, kept station on the Underground Railroad in Ludlowville, and lived on this property.
Very good.
Can you send it to me, Joe?
Yes.